Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Eagle Eye podcast, where we discuss how you, as an Emory student, can get a better vision of your future career path. My name is Ryan James, and I'll be your student host for our first series called Creative Spark, where we spark conversation with Emory alumni in different creative fields to discuss their stories, strategies, and insights. Recently, I had the chance to speak with class of 2012 alumna Rachael Wolfson. She's a marketing lead at Estée Lauder, working with brands to maximize the effectiveness of paid media investments, including consumer engagement, brand building, e-commerce, and retail media. She also drives the impact of own and earn customer touchpoints through building and fostering partnerships with influencer talent and creators, as well as overseeing all media and agency partnerships. She also mentioned that she gets excited when using data to drive brand decision-making. We had a great conversation about her Emory experience and how she ended up in her current and previous roles, almost through happenstance. We talk about her hot takes in the media, marketing, and beauty industries, which included some discussions on TikTok, Snapchat's AR and camera features, freckle shaming, and what she sees as the future of media marketing. Make sure you stick around to the end to hear our student question from third-year undergraduate student Asaf Mokit. Rachael had some great insight for him and other entrepreneurs that may be thinking about using influencers to help promote their brand. We hope you enjoy. Hey Rachael, how's it going?
Hey Ryan, how are you?
Pretty good. Just trying to deal with everything that I've going on this semester with graduation and classes, and really trying to figure out where I'm trying to go. So this conversation is definitely going to be helpful for me.
I feel you. I feel that as soon as you said second semester senior, I went immediately back to both the joys of what that meant, but also the reality that the real world was closer than I was expecting.
Yes, that is exactly how I feel right now. So just trying to get, like all the insight I can and talk to as many people as I can about like where you're at and how you got there, and any tips like you have for myself and other students.
Hopefully what I say can help you.
I'm sure it will. It definitely will. So just to maybe like start it off, like how I kind of already introduced you to our audience and shared a little bit of what you do, but could you maybe talk first about what does your day-to-day look like in your current position, in your official title, and what that looks like?
Absolutely. So I work at the Estee Lauder companies, which is a conglomeration of brands. So people often think of Clinique, Estee Lauder, Bobbi Brown, MAC, Joe Malone. And I sit in a COE or Center of Excellence position looking after media, marketing, content, and influencers. So really that paid and earned perspective of the marketing landscape. I serve as an advisory role to all of our multiple brands within US and Canada and work with them to ensure that best practices are upheld in the marketplace.
Awesome. So how does that, I guess maybe we can talk a little bit more too about like your work with, influencer marketing or working with creators. I know before we went live, we spoke about some of the partnerships that you have with, different media brands. What does that look like, and how, like, what exactly is your role in making sure that, okay, this is what we need a media brand to do, or this is what we need an influencer or creator to do for the companies?
Great question. So I'm actually going to separate the two of those things out.
Okay.
First, addressing media partners. The second, addressing influencers. So when
Awesome.
it comes to media partners, we operate with them in a series of ways. So in my position, the three main things that I do is number one, I oversee our joint business partnerships or JBPs. Between us and media owners directly. So any relationship that we have with a media owner, which has a commercial implication, a creative implication, a value-based implication, I oversee those. The second piece with media is I work with our media agencies. So the Estee Lauder Companies has a media agency, which I serve as a conduit between the media agency and our brands and make sure that our best practices are held up in market. Everything from planning rates to go-to-market strategies to overarching approach, which leads to the third piece, is we set the tone and vision for what our overall go-to-market approach would be. That is not what is this product hitting shelves. It is what is our audience first strategy? What is our approach to non-brand search? What does always on consideration look like? And really codifying what that looks like and then translating it through to partners, agencies, and our brands. On the influencer side of the fence, same thing. I'm not necessarily signing the next talent that is going to be our face for insert product or brand here, but I work to codify all of the back end to make that possible. So working with our legal team on contracts and templates, establishing fair market value rates for all of our influencer tiers, working with different talent agencies to make sure that if we have multiple talent from the same places, we're standardizing a little bit and really serve as a standardization across. Influencers is a very one-to-one basis, but when many of our brands are using the same beauty talent, it's important that we consider consistent rates for consistent contracts. So my job is to instill consistency.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds like a lot. Just hearing it. I mean, you also said like you're all of North America, right? US and Canada. How is that managing the entire, atmosphere of North America for that?
I mean, I love it. I definitely couldn't do it alone. I work for an amazing woman who really leads the show. I'm just her second hand. So all credit to my boss for how fantastic she is. I would say North America is in some respects less daunting because up until September, I was in global positions, both at Estee Lauder and in my previous roles. So managing the world versus managing two countries sometimes feels a little bit more manageable. But I think it's not daunting when you do it. It might be scary when you think about it, like, oh my God, two countries, 40 brands. But when you actually start to do it, you're like, oh, this is my day to day. I can do this.
Wow. I mean, that's good to hear too. And it sounds like it's, you also have like the support that you need. I mean, your boss, I'm sure as well as, other people that you work with on different teams. Sounds like it's a great supportive environment. So that's good as well.
Yeah, I really love my job. I think, of course, there's going to be days where I'm like, this job is terrible. These people are horrible. Everything sucks. But you have to have the good days outweigh the bad. And I like what I do and I like who I work with. And I like what we've been able to create, which is awesome.
That's awesome. And I also want to briefly touch on, I mean, you mentioned your previous role with IPG Media Brands. And you were there for, it's like 6.5 years. And most recently was, like you said, VP of Global Operations. Well, first I want to ask, like, what was your motivation in switching either companies, and is it a different area of work? Like, what led you to make the switch?
Sure. So Estee Lauder was my client.
Wow.
That's how I made the switch, simply put. But to give a bit more context, on the agency side, I worked in operations for a while, and that was client operations and then account operations. So really making sure that our processes were in place, our regulations were in place. We were setting the tone for how we would work with different brands, listening and taking business needs and providing solutions. So I was very fortunate to work across incredible clients in different verticals at my time at the agency and touch different facets of the company as a result of working in operations. So everything from a portion of new business to new client onboarding, to new tool onboarding, to new market creations. I've been very fortunate to do all of that. And so Estee Lauder is a brand that we pitched for a while on the agency side. Standard process, so nothing out of the norm in the pitch cycle. We were very lucky to win the business. I was working on the pitch itself and serving as an operational quarterback of that.
Nice.
And really kind of leading the charge of like how we would actually do what we were saying we were going to do for them. And so we started transitioning the business. I led it. I thought I was going to leave. They were like, one more project, one more thing. So I stayed on for a little bit longer. And it was both at the request of the agency side needing some support, but also starting to build a relationship with the clients and them having a lot of requests that we had to fill and having the skill set to do it, which was great. The job came up. My client, who is now my boss, and I were talking about it. I like to say I got interviewed in plain sight. We went for coffee on one of the floors of the agency. We're literally talking on a couch, like not in a closed door room. She's like, the job is yours if you want it. I sent her in my resume and cover letter just because I was like, well, I don't know, but here it is just in case. Right. And then, yeah, she convinced me it was the right step in my career. And here I am. I never would have thought this is where I would be working, but I'm really glad I made that choice.
Yeah, no, I was just about to say, like, I'm sure that just came sort of out of the blue in terms of like just having that conversation and then being offered the job. Like that's super awesome too. I think it speaks volumes to the tremendous work that you were doing at IPG Media Brands. Yeah, definitely. And I'm like all the work that you're doing now. So yeah. How about before that? That was just Emory, right? You were a student and you graduated. You went straight to Media Brands.
I did, yeah. I didn't think that's where I didn't think I'd be in this career, just to be perfectly blunt. I went to Emory to become a DOT, a doctorate of occupational therapy. Clearly, that is not where I ended up. But my senior year was applying to occupational therapy school and just wasn't getting in where I wanted. So got waitlisted a few places, got into a few places, just nothing was sticking in a way that like, it's not what I had envisioned for myself. Yeah. So I was given the advice from the Career Center to also start looking for jobs. Like maybe I need to take a gap year. Maybe that's what I need. So I was like, I'll just take 1 year and that will be it. I landed on my role right out of college as an assistant to the Global Chief Communications Officer of IPG Media Brands. And after about 4 weeks, I kind of got that job down and they were like, there's a coordinator position open. You could do both. And I kind of was hooked after a while. And the time came for my 1 year to be up and me to go to grad school. And that never happened.
That's amazing. I feel like from what it sounds like, I mean, your story and your career path has been just a lot of surprises. It sounds like it's a lot of like unexpected opportunities and pivots and changing of like what you think you're going to do. I'd be interested in hearing too about like this specific switch, like when you were a senior, and you were kind of getting waitlisted and wasn't really sure like, okay, maybe I do need to take a gap year. Was it just sort of the advice that you got that pushed you, or did you have any other thoughts in your mind that question occupational therapy? Yeah,
that's a really fair question. In absolute transparency, my second semester senior year started off pretty rough. One of my best friends had passed away. Oh, wow. And I was a little lost because I had broken my foot in 3 places. 3 days before she passed. So I wasn't cleared to get on a plane to go to the funeral. Yeah. And stuck in Atlanta, which sucked. And it was the only time I was ever sad that I was from New York and I was in school in Georgia. I loved everything about Atlanta except for that one moment. But her and I had always had this plan that we were going to go to Columbia for grad school. We were going to be roommates and we were going to take on the world. And when she passed, I was like, I'm going to still go to Columbia for grad school. I've got this. I'll do this for both of us. And then I got waitlisted. And so I started questioning whether or not I really wanted that dream for myself. I had had that dream since high school. And at the time, I was interning with a fabulous occupational therapist in Georgia. I started just shadowing her because you need a X number of hours of shadow time in order to apply to grad school. Right. So I started shadowing her back my sophomore year. And by senior year, like worked part-time on her front desk to like help her with the books and help her with her schedule and serve as her office manager of sorts on days that her office manager couldn't come in. And I realized I had been working with the same patients for 3 years. And it was really hard for me to see some, and I wanted to go into peds. I should have said that. Okay. It was really hard for me to see these kids where like the big milestone was that they were holding a pen in their hand and that they were learning super small words or sign language and couldn't converse or have a full sentence. And it really weighs on you. It takes a really strong person to be a doctor, to be a nurse, to be in a field of supporting someone where your options aren't limitless, they're limited.
Yeah.
And it was really hard. So between all of that and feeling a little bit rejected from my dreams, I wasn't sure it was the right thing for me. And when I started to work in my job, I realized that work didn't have to be sad. You can have fun with it. And that maybe I wasn't the right person to be an occupational therapist, but those people that are strong enough to do it should. And I should do something that I'm good at and makes me happy.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like the greatest advice, I feel like, especially with your story, because I mean, especially like I said before, I'm a senior at Emory, and yeah, I've also I've had similar experiences in terms of like just not being sure, what exactly is the next step. So it's good to hear, especially from someone in your position that has had made so many accomplishments over the past years since you've graduated Emory, and just the flow of how things went your senior year in terms of having opportunities come up that you might not have expected and being able to readjust. So it's always like a comforting thing to hear as a student to know that it's never like if A to B doesn't work, like there's all the other letters in the alphabet, like.
Well, I would also say like Emory makes it really hard to feel like you can fail because everyone is good at everything, or at least that was my perception.
That's true.
In my friend group and so forth, everyone got into the law schools they wanted. Everyone got into the med schools they wanted. Like 90% of people I knew had jobs by January. And here I was, and I felt like a loser, quite frankly, because my world came crumbling down around me. And I thought I was graduating as a failure. And I couldn't take a moment to stop and be proud of how things were going because I was so laser focused that everyone else had it figured out and I didn't. It only took graduating and like having a drink with people in the city where they were like, I have no idea what I'm doing, for it to realize that no one knows what they're doing. We're all faking it and like playing keeping up with the Joneses to realize that we are the Joneses. We're keeping up with ourselves. And I think if I can give any piece of advice, it's that if you are having a hard time with this, so are your friends. So you should talk to one another because that's an easier way to get it through together. You don't have to be on an island of your own and finding where your career is. And importantly, once you're in your first job, that doesn't have to be your career. If you don't like it, you can figure out how to change and have your support system around you and find mentors in your vertical that will help you get there. Like you can't do it alone. It's impossible.
Yeah. Wow. I couldn't have said it better myself. Well, thank you so much, especially hearing your story. Like I said before, like it's just so great to hear as a student. And I appreciate you sharing the advice that you did. I know that everyone, like from a freshman to a senior, like, Emory, like you said, is a place where a lot of students are very, very talented and very hardworking. So, being able to, always have the right mindset and approach in this environment is crucial.
Of course.
Awesome. So let's take a quick break and play Hot Takes, where we get your insight on what's going up and what's going out, or what you might want to see go out of your industry. So yeah, whichever one you want to start with, whenever you're ready.
I'll let you choose.
Okay. Why don't we start with what's going out? Because I feel like, yeah.
So I think, and would it be easier for me to do like marketing or beauty?
It's a good question. Let's say, what do you think is more interesting? Do you have?
I think it depends on who you are. Like, I think beauty is really fascinating right now because skincare is on the rise. Like, between everyone wearing masks and the revolutionary change of what that means for your skin and how you don't necessarily need to wear a full set of makeup is fascinating. I also think that when you think about some of the beauty trends that have emerged on TikTok, it's also kind of funny. Like, oh God. And I purposely have my hair in a bun because I'm a side part person. And I recently was told that I can no longer side part my hair. I have to do a middle part because that's what Gen Z has said on TikTok. So, screw you, because I do not agree with that. But
side parts, I gotta keep the side part.
Side parts need to come back, but a middle part seems to be on the rise, which again, don't agree with. But that's kind of the hot take on beauty. I think it's we're seeing the rise of like brow and like eye fashion. So whether it be like going super avant-garde with the colors or just really focusing in on your brow game because it's all that people see of you, I think that's really fascinating. But from a media and marketing perspective, obviously digital consumption is on the rise. I rotate between 3 screens, my cell phone, my computer, and my TV. So I think we're at a place and stage right now where it's about capturing attention. It's not just about being there. It's about doing it in a unique way and then using the new unique platforms that have emerged during quarantine. So obviously TikTok, can't ignore that. Clubhouse, can't ignore that. You can't ignore the rise of OTT or over-the-top television. So like your streaming services, Amazon, the emergence of Paramount Plus, which was previously CBS All Access. Like the industry is changing so fast. So it's certainly something to keep a pulse on.
Yeah, most definitely. Wow. Okay. You definitely informed me on both of those things because I mean, obviously I have some insight in digital, but I had no clue about that. The Netflix, or rather, was it the Paramount is from CBS, you said?
Is CBS Plus All Access. It changes on March 1st. So get on in now because they're going to raise the price.
Oh, good to know. Okay. Okay. So how about the flip side? What do you think is on its way out, and you could do both again, or just choose one for media marketing and beauty, or what do you hope to be out? Other than the side part, we know we want that to come back.
I think when it comes to what needs to be out from a beauty perspective, I think using beauty to cover up insecurities. Like beauty I firmly believe that your beauty routine, whether it be makeup, skincare, hair care, fragrance, should make you feel better about yourself. If what you're doing is making you feel worse, don't do it. It's not worth it. I would also say freckle shaming should go. You can't really tell in this video, but I am head to toe covered in freckles. And so it drives me bananas. Even for our own company, we have a lot of foundations and concealers that cover your skin and blemishes. But freckle shaming is still going on. People cover them up. And I believe that they look cute. So I think they should come back, be in style.
I love freckles. Yeah, I agree.
And then from a media side, I think what needs to go is, oh God, this is tough. I think what needs to go is the marketing jargon around channels. Like if you take a step out of how we market on these channels and how you talk about it, versus how you as a consumer actually experience it, they're 2 very different things. And I think we all have to stop pretending that you as a marketer aren't also the consumer. Like you don't listen to Instagram with sound on, don't put sound in your ads. Like it's not an innate behavior. So don't do it. Whereas like if you're going to be on TikTok, don't do a TikTok campaign if you're not planning to be authentic and silly. It's a really raw storytelling platform. And if you want to be successful, you have to be raw, whatever that means for your brand.
Exactly. Wow. Awesome. Well, that's definitely a lot of insight and nice to hear from somebody that is, especially in your position. I feel like myself and other students will be tapped in to tracking like all of what we just discussed to see how those things will evolve, in the coming years.
I'm fascinated to see what will happen with TikTok, if it will continue to expand or not. I was a huge naysayer, and I will say I'm now obsessed with it.
I am too.
So upset. Don't have one. Like I'm not creating content at all, but I watch a lot of content on TikTok, and it is fascinating to me. and
It
Snapchat
is.
as well. So fascinated by
Mm.
how Snapchat has really just taken off. Like my mom is on Snapchat and she snaps her friends. It's
Oh my
so
God.
bizarre to me, but
That
it's fascinating.
That's funny. I feel like, because I feel like, especially with Snapchat, like I know a lot of people that are probably like Gen Zers are probably like I use Snapchat and a lot of my friends use it, but it's for us it's different than I feel like it was years ago when we were a lot younger. Like I feel like it had a lot more stuff going on. But how do you, what are you feeling about that? Because you think like maybe the audience is changing, or it's just like the platform is evolving in a different way.
No, I think what it is they've really harnessed what the role of AR technology is and the role
Yeah.
of the camera. The
Yeah.
things you can do because of your camera on Snapchat are incredible. You can be on a map and drop your location. You can try on products. You can enter a virtual world. And I think in an era where everything is online and you're not going to be able to touch or feel something or experience it with a person, doing it virtually through a chat is so easy. Like, hey, see this world, click. Oh, great, bang, send it back. It's such an easy way to experience something with someone without being there. And I think
Yeah.
it's magical.
Yeah. I agree. Awesome. Well, that will wrap up our segment of hot takes, and we'll continue to talk about your experience and maybe some advice you have for students.
Awesome.
All right, so transitioning back into some more questions about your experience and your journey, I think that something that might be helpful in this segment for current students, and we talked about this a little bit before, were mindsets that you had as a student that would be able to help you, position yourself well to get into the fields that you want to get into. So when you were at Emory, did you do anything like, whether it was a mindset or just a certain way that you approach things or a way that you wish you had approached things that you would say to current students to say, this is one of the most important things, on your career path. Like this is the advice I would give to my older self or just current students.
Yeah. So I would say my answer is grounded as to why I picked Emory in the first place. Aside from the fabulous weather and everything else, I chose Emory because I wanted to go to a school where I would have the opportunities to work and take advantage of being in a major city based off of the corporations that are around it. And also knowing I wanted to go into healthcare at the time of which I was applying, being like walking distance to the CDC and having one of the top hospitals in the nation connected to your campus so you can volunteer or uh, like shadow whatever it was really important to me. And also the fact that it was a research institution, so Emory really focuses on making sure the professors are doing research and furthering the fields that they're supposed to be subject matter expertise in. That was why I chose Emory in the first place. And so my mindset the moment I got to campus was to take advantage of all of it and do it in a way that I was learning and growing and advancing who I was as a person. I think why I have been able to transfer the skills I had in college into the real world is yes, classes really important, so important. Go to your class. But was a lot of the other opportunities I had on and off campus. So, like for example, second semester freshman year, one of my like it was one of those credit classes. It's like HBSR, one of the like it's the acronyms for one of the arts classes.
Oh,
And
yeah,
there's the
yeah.
other ones. There's like two H acronyms. I had to take one of those classes. I needed one of the credits to like check the boxes.
Right.
And I stumbled into one of these education classes. And my professor made an announcement one day that they were looking for someone to transcribe tapes. She had a lot of video recordings and she needed to transcribe them written into documents. And I needed money. So I was like, cool, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Um, and I spent the next like year and a half transcribing tapes of she had interviewed people from around the world for some study she was doing. And I transcribed tapes. And it was the most useful skill I've picked up in life because I can hear what you are saying and type it out in real time, which makes it a really great way to take notes in meetings, to
Yeah.
form an opinion while you're hearing what's being said. So it's a listening, learning, and responding exercise. And like, I'm not encouraging that everyone starts transcribing things, but it was just such a oddball opportunity that I'm like, I'm never going to need this ever. And instead, it not only taught me a life skill that I've been able to translate into how I work in meetings, how I send follow-ups, how I work on reports, but it also opened up doors and opportunities. So from that, I was able to connect with a different professor in the education department who was working with the sociology and psychology department on the psychological effects of different incomes and students. And I ended up working on a research project for 3 years, sophomore, junior, and senior year, with these 3 professors. And like, I worked during the school year, my sophomore to junior year, I stayed after for 4 weeks and lived on Claremont campus and like worked with her on some of like fielding the next round of studies. It gave me an opportunity to work at, was it the DeKalb school? Decatur school, whatever that public school, high school that is right behind.
Right next door. Yeah.
Because we were fielding some of the questions with some of the teachers there, I got a job volunteering in the nonverbal inclusion classroom in that school twice a week. So that opened up a door and got to meet people and do things that like I never would have had exposure to otherwise. It led me to changing my major. I ended up falling into becoming an education major. It picked it up. I was doing psych and soc and then picked up education because I really liked these professors I was working with and just kept on taking more classes. I was a TA. And then I realized I only had 2 classes to go before finishing the major. So I'm like, might as well, here I am. So I ended up graduating with a triple major just because of happenstance. Yeah. And it's one of those things where like all of those are interconnected, and it are things that like it taught me along the way to just be open-minded to where opportunities lead you. If you are so rigid in what your plan is, you're not going to take advantage of what's right in front of you. Using another example, the summer that I worked from May to June, so those 8 weeks, working on the research and fielding some of the studies to go into market, I took one class because my housing was paid for. You pay by the credit when it's over the summer, or you did. I don't know if that's still a thing. And I took the globalized economy class because you can get credit for, at the time in the psych and social double major, you could do a concentration. So I was doing a concentration on economics, and I took this econ class. Quite possibly, I wish I knew the professor's name and I wish I knew the name of the class. It is quite possibly the most useful class I have ever taken. I kept the textbook. I still have the textbook in my apartment. It was, and the professor had written the textbook. I don't know if that helps anyone land who this professor is. It was one of the most useful classes I ever took. He did a full study on like the globalization of McDonald's as one of the components of the class. And it was really important to understand how companies and businesses are translated to different markets, and how while things are the same, they're also super different. And it was such an important mindset understanding in going into my job, which ended up being global. I didn't know I was going to work in a global position until I was there, but having that context and understanding the differences of economies by country and by company and how that translates, like, it was just a fundamental understanding that no one's going to tell you in corporate America. Countries are different, but like understanding it and seeing it through a textbook lens was really helpful for me personally. And I rambled on a little bit there, so I apologize.
No worries. I mean, I think that the stories are really important. I feel like too, it speaks volumes to, like you said, being open-minded and taking advantage of happenstance scenarios where you may not know exactly what your future, whether it's a job or, a short internship or just like something you're working on, like transcriptions or whatever it is that a student is doing. A lot of times like these situations can open up avenues that you never even knew existed. And, kind of like you said, like you kind of just like stumbled upon this field so far off from where you were originally with, therapy, and ended up where you are. And I think it also, like I said before, it gives me comfort to know that, all these like little things that we do will definitely have some effect, and most likely will have value to whatever we do in the future, whether we know it at the time or not.
100%.
Yeah. So maybe one other thing that I'd want to get your input on is, say a student says, hey, I want to be Rachael Wolfson. I want to, go down the path that you went down and do a lot of the work that you're doing. Is there any advice that you would give to that student?
Oh, wow. That's a really, okay. I'm a little stunned.
Take your time. No worries.
So I would say this. If someone is trying to be the next Rachael Wolfson, which I'm sure there are better people you can emulate, but I'm flattered nonetheless.
Not at all.
If someone is looking to be the next Rachael Wolfson, my advice is less tactical skills. Someone at your job will teach you how to do your job. Like, you can always learn how to do XYZ in Excel or SPSS or your site analytics platforms. That will always be there to be taught. But you can't teach as being a good person. And the number one thing that you hold as an individual is your integrity. And I think it's really important to be able to stand behind who you are and the work that you do. And to me, that has been something that I really try throughout my career. There have definitely been times where I second guess myself. I mean, all the time I second guess myself. There have definitely been times where, in looking back, I don't like who I was in certain situations. But I don't necessarily in my career want to be the best insert thing here. I want people to, if asked, like, what's it like working with Rachael, to answer, she's a great collaborator. She really listens. She's a great partner to my business. She really helped me do X, Y, Z. I really value her contribution. Doesn't matter what I did. It matters that I was a good person while I do it. And I think that is the number one piece of advice I can give. I know it's so cliche, but at the end of the day, personally, I don't hire people that aren't good people. I've never hired people that aren't good people, because you can teach someone how to do their job. You cannot teach someone to be who they are. And of course, you should learn skills along the way. Like, please make sure you are learning skills along the way, but please also remember to be a good person.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, it reminds me, like, I know that, I feel like it was a few years ago or 3 or 4 years ago, maybe, when I was like entering college, and it sounded like more people were beginning to talk about like soft skills and like how like this is becoming more and more important. And I see it too. I mean, I work with like various teams, like small startup scale or like at a big company, and it's like they're saying the same things that you're saying. It's like you work with people, and at the end of the day, like whatever the technical details of what you need to do on the job are, like you can figure out how to get that done. But if you're not working with somebody that is not either energizing you or bringing some sort of value to you and your team, outside of just the work, then it's going to be really difficult to work with that person and kind of grow with them.
And I also think it's important to always keep on learning. Like, if you're thinking about hard and soft skills, the first 2 years of your career, learn all the hard skills that you can. Yeah. Anything that is going to help you get to that next stage, learn it. When you start to think then as you move up the ladder and move on in your career, the most important thing is to keep an open mind and learn. Like, it's funny because when I was a VP and I had associates underneath me and an agency, like, things change so rapidly in the industries that you work in. And quite often, the more junior people know the technical and tactical way to do something better than you do, because they're closer to it. Listen to them, learn from them, and then make a strategic decision from listening to others. You will not get better if you do not open your ears and your mind.
Yeah. Amazing. Awesome. So that will conclude, the main questions section. We like to end our podcast with a student question. So this time we have a student. His name is Asaf. He is a third-year student, and I will play his question for you right now.
Hi, Rachel. My name is Asaf. I'm currently a junior in the undergraduate business school. I want to thank you so much for coming out today to speak with us. My question is, what would your advice be for aspiring entrepreneurs in utilizing influencer marketing, probably micro-influencers, to reach their target audience? Is this an effective channel to reach their customers, especially in an early business/startup?
That's a great question. First and foremost, I think if you are an entrepreneur and starting your own company, that is incredible. And I give you all the kudos. And if there's anything I can do to help you, please reach out. I would say, first and foremost, you should really know what your brand message is. Micro influencers are a great way to tap into local communities and, importantly, local microcosms of your audience pool. They usually have a really high engagement rate and a really attentive audience. So if you know what you are going to say, having a great and strong influencer strategy will become really important. I also think it's important when thinking about influencer marketing to think of the world that it sits in. It's earned media and it's transmissible through owned channels. So if you're starting a new company or brand, it's really important to have a strong brand identity and a strong tone of voice in the market. So influencers can not only build on top of it, but engage with you for it. And micro influencers really help grow that space. I think without knowing what your startup is, it's always also important to look at the field that you're in. So is micro influencer something that your vertical tends to do? Would this be new? Would it be disruptive? Or would it be the norm? If it's the norm, then it's a great tactic to deploy, but you're going to need to do something bigger to break through the clutter. There's a lot of noise out there in the influencer space, and oftentimes it's inauthentic. So if you're starting out, you need to figure out not only how to do those tried and true things that will help move your business, but you have to figure out how to be disruptive in a manner that will help you stand out and cut through.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Rachel. That concludes the podcast. But before we wrap up, I do want to give you the opportunity to first share, if Emory students want to reach out to you, how they might be able to do so, and maybe share if you have anything you're working on that you want to promote or just share. That'd be awesome.
Sure. So I would just say I welcome anyone to reach out to me. You are welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn. I think my email is listed with the Career Center and hopefully will be in the footnotes of this podcast. So you can put it, put it there, and I welcome all emails. I'm happy to help. I'm happy to do whatever you need to further your career. I would not be here unless some wonderful alumni gave me an ear and a chance to talk and get some sage advice when I was figuring out what I wanted to do. So I hope I can provide that resource for others.
Thanks again, Rachel. It's been a pleasure. And thank you as well, listener, for tuning in. This has been the Eagle Eye Podcast Creative Spark Series, and we hope to see you next time. Thanks.